Welks back to your World Cup wrap-up, brought to you by the Maximum Cricket Podcast. On today's show, the group stage is over and we have 6 losers going home. And we're going to grade their efforts tonight. The hint is that England does not pass. It is also time to preview the semis. We've got David versus Goliath in a world where David has a winning record against Goliath, and also Australia versus South Africa. Will we see a repeat of 99? I really hope so for context sake.
Oh, that is brilliant. It's a hero maximum. On the ground, down the ground, another hero maximum.
My name is Munter and I'm joined by Lugsy and Jacko. Boys, before we tuck into some grades, we have to talk about this absolute exhibition match between India and Netherlands. The top 5 make 50 plus. The crowd is going ballistic. It's Kohli's home ground. Then the cherry on top, we've got 9 players bowling, including Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma. They took a pole each. This really is becoming the Indian show, the Indian Globetrotters, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sort of parents-kids stuff, isn't it? It's the parents-kids game at the end of the season, and all the dads get to bowl on over to their kid and hopefully bump them out. Sort of what it's starting to feel like here towards the end for India. Just, get all the silliness out of the way and then sort of really focus for NZ semi this week, because they're bogey team in playoff cricket, but shit, this is going to be a tough one for the boys. India look very dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they got that win because as the astute cricket fans have pointed out, they're due a loss. So good that they didn't blow it on the Netherlands. And yeah, I mean, you don't want to use the words piss take, in an international game of cricket, but you're bowling 9 players here. I mean, I think, is it almost just them saying to everyone else, look how easy is it a wee warning shot? This is how easy we're doing it, by the way. Like, we're just going to get through this game without sort of really taking the foot off the gas at all.
Is it arrogance?
Yeah, I mean,
or is it is it just them just having fun because they can do it? Like, if you're the Netherlands, are you offended, or do you just take it on the chin?
I mean, it's sort of like, if you're offended by something, you've got to stop it. So, I mean, if they're going to bowl these guys, you've got to score lots of runs. Probably one step away from reversing the batting order. Then we're talking taking the piss. Then we're talking embarrassment sort of stuff. But yeah, like if they're going to bowl guys that have never bowled in international cricket or barely, it is actually then on the Netherlands to go, actually, like, nah, fuck you, we'll smoke you. As opposed to, Virat taking a couplet or just the one. But probably on the Netherlands to put their foot down and try and win that with India mucking around a bit.
Put it in perspective,
the only thing...
To put it in perspective, Rohit Sharma has the best bowling average for India. Just want to add that in.
No, they've got, that's the depth they've got.
Anything else, or should we move on should we start with the Netherlands? Because they did get the piss taken out of them. They unfortunately they finished a 10th out of 10. But they won 2 games. They lost 7. They beat Bangladesh. They beat South Africa, which is also their high point of the tournament, no doubt. Beating South Africa, a rampant South Africa. Low point has to be that record loss against Australia. 90 all out chasing 400, not ideal. Strengths, they're a good bowling unit as a pack, and they're a good lower order batting unit to get them a score. Their weakness, top order, just, very poor. Jacko, what was your grade for the Netherlands this World Cup?
Yeah, it's a tough one, and I don't want to be that guy that sits on the fence, but I probably will give them maybe a B plus. I think that big win against South Africa, like, that's something now that we're looking back at this tournament and how good South Africa's played. But then they got whomped by Aussie. I think for them, they can sort of expect to lose to a couple of the big teams massively. But yeah, to, upset a real contender at this World Cup, and then, they competed well in a lot of other games. And we spoke about them halfway through, saying they're probably, the opposite of Afghanistan, being a couple of superstars away. They're consistent for 9 guys, but they probably need some top-level talent to actually compete. So, yeah, to get a big win and be competitive, you've got to give them sort of a B+, I think.
Lugsy, what did you grade them?
Look, we're in lockstep here, Jack. I've got it written down. It's a B plus for the Netherlands. You know,
They're
it's
right
and I
down.
dare
That's
say,
special.
I was going to go an A, but I just couldn't quite bring myself to give a team an A that came last, and had a record loss. It was just a bit
And lost
far
by
for me,
300.
but yeah. But what I will say is, going to this tournament, I think they would have probably had two goals, and that was probably to win a game or two, and to try and maybe get into ninth or really sneak into that Champions League. And I think they achieved one of those goals. But most importantly, I think there's a sort of a standard that they've set now as a team of competing and not falling around. Even that India game we just spoke about, I thought, India were on track for 1,000 at one point there. I mean, the Netherlands have dead set done a job to restrict them there. I thought they always fight hard. And they just seem like there's a good culture in their side of working hard and doing their roles, and I think that can only serve them well. So they did come last, but it's a B plus for me.
Yeah, we'll make it. It's B plus all around, boys, because that's my grading as well. So lock that in for TMC's grading. But I was just impressed with just how they competed every game. I mean, they only got blown out really, and I'd say embarrassed in that Australian game, which is going to happen at least like 9 games against top opposition, and to win 2 games. I don't want to patronise them too much, but like we had them winning 0 games, and they were unlucky to only win 2 games. Probably, I think that's fair to say. Like they could have won 3 or 4. Everyone, you had to put them away, which I think is a benefit. But yeah, they fell last, so I couldn't give them an A.
No.
Sri Lanka, same win-loss, 1-2, lost 7. They beat the Netherlands. They beat England. High point, easily just beating England by 8 wickets. Their low point, I mean, it's got to be getting bowled out for 50 against India. Their strengths, their top order made runs all around the bat. And Madhushanka was a revelation with the new ball. Second top wicket taker of the whole tournament. Weaknesses, the rest of the attack was dog shit. And that middle to lower order just didn't really provide any sort of power to back up the top order. Grading. We'll start with you, Lugsy. Let's go with your grading first.
Look, and this may obviously come into how I felt about them going forward, but it's just a straight F for me, I'm afraid. It's a real fail for me for the Lankans. I thought they could do a little bit of a job on the back of that Asia Cup. And I thought even early on when they lost 2 games that maybe they should have got one of them scoring 300 both games. They never got it. It went sort of downhill from there as well. They got that win against the Netherlands and England, but it just reverted back. I was really disappointed. I mean, I was happy with that New Zealand performance, but I just thought they didn't offer enough there, and it was a pretty disappointing way to go out. So, yeah, I'm afraid it ends up a right fail for me from the Lankans.
Yeah, I mean, I won't be as harsh. I've got them scraping through at a C minus, maybe a 49.5 rounded up to 50. I think as you say, they got some tidy wins. Like, let's not forget they barely qualified for this World Cup. Like they were, sort of on the precipice there at one stage. So yeah, I mean, to be there and be competitive when they were sort of a shambles a year ago. I'll give them a passing grade, but it's as you said, it's only because the top order have scored runs and they've unearthed a seamer. There was a stage in that tournament where they were looking like maybe the worst attack ever at a World Cup and not scoring any runs. So, I've got them scraping by.
Dead set tough mix that.
I went a bit lower, and I think a lot of this is how you expected them to perform, and I expected a little bit more from Sri Lanka. So I had them at a D plus. So not quite. I couldn't. C minus makes me feel like that's pretty close to a pass, and I thought they were well off the pace. Just from how they finished, like there was about halfway through the tournament, they were sort of right in for a semi-final position. They were in a lot of games. They were competing in a lot of games. They just didn't quite get a lot over the line. But after India bowled them out 50, it just turned to absolute dog shit. There's some bad losses, like the Bangladesh loss. The loss against New Zealand was very, very, very poor. They didn't even make us really work for that at all. So I expected a lot more from Sri Lanka. So I'm going with a D plus. Anyone wavering, or should we move on to the bangers?
Yeah, fuck it, I'll fail them.
Yeah, I'm sticking with a fail. Fail grade.
Right. So we're hovering around that D sort of F range. Bangladesh, they won 2 games. They lost 7. They beat Afghanistan at the start. They beat Sri Lanka towards the end. Their high point, probably the first game when they comfortably beat Afghanistan. We thought they're a real crack here. Low point, just timing out Matthews. We've touched on that before. That's just a low point for a nation. Their strengths, Mamadullah, he was averaging 50 odd, so he was the lone bat. And I guess they were able to turn up in 2 games. Weaknesses, their lack of spirit of the cricket, and just bulk runs in general. They just didn't make any runs, at all. So, I know where my grading is, boys. I'll kick things off here. I've got them at a D minus. I didn't want to, I'm saving the F for something. I just want to make clear only one person's getting F, and I don't want to diminish how poor this other side is by lumping someone else with them. But D minus, I think Bangladesh just have to turn up at some point. At some point they've had these are familiar conditions. We're not playing in England. We're not playing in New Zealand. Like, this is India. It's spinning conditions. They've got spinners. They've got good players. I've seen a stat where they've got about 3 guys that have played in 5 World Cups, and they have probably won about 5 games in those 5 World Cups.
Yeah, like, there's a lot of stop picking those blokes.
There's a lot of experience on the
side.
They are just perennial losers. But I think they should be better than this right now. They've got good players, good seam attack, good spinners, good batters. Like, enough's enough. Stop worrying about fucking timing a guy out and just get better at playing cricket.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a different grade for them. It does start with B as well, but I'll say that DQ'd. They've sort of been found with notes down their pants on exam day. That fucking shit show with the tie with that timed out. You can't have that. You're straight to the principal's office, and you will be asked to leave this university. Thanks for coming, mate.
Oh.
It's lucky I'm not the one driving here, because I'd be clean off the road.
That's so good.
Yeah, it's a D, and I'll go with Jacko. That can stand for DQ. Superb. Not a lot to add there. You can't time a guy out. In seriousness, I just think if there was ever a World Cup where they're going to start to offer a bit, and on the back of that start they had, which proved out to be a pretty good one, I thought they'd offer more, and we've said it a bit on the pod. They just don't seem to be improving enough for my liking. So I think they'll be pretty disappointed in that World Cup. They qualified for the Champions Trophy, did they? They snuck into 8.
Yeah, they snuck in. So beating
so I guess that may be one job done. I suppose you can take that out of it, but it's going to be a D for me.
Yeah. Okay. So pretty clear D's all around. England. They won 3 and lost 6. The defending champions, the 3 teams they beat were the Netherlands, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Their high point was qualifying for the Champions Trophy. Their low point is being in that conversation for qualifying for the Champions Trophy. Their strengths, Stokes and Milan were a standout with the bat, averaging high 40s, and Stokes got into the 50. Also, their best bowler was, ironically, David Willey, who was the only member of the squad not to make get a contract, which made him retire. Weaknesses, everything else is pretty shit. So, yeah, batting, bowling, fielding, it was poor. I don't know if this is a real grade. Actually, I'll save it. I'll pass it around. I'll let someone else have this one. Jacko, your grade for England.
Yeah, not to throw another curveball with the D's here, but I've got them with another D as a DNP, did not participate. They haven't shown up on exam day. They just Rob Key's sort of out the front going, you know what, we didn't think exams was the way to go this cycle, this semester at uni. We didn't believe in the exams. We just focused on, assignments and workshops. They haven't shown up on exam day, and it's been reflected in the grade here.
Yeah. I've gone with the rear double F. That's a fucking fail. That's poor. That's really, that's poor from England. I think, there might be some people that go ease up on a bit because they finish with 2 wins, but that's not enough. It's not enough for a big side like them. And there's probably not a team I can think of more that I go back and forth on if I love them or hate them. Probably reflected on this pod, if you cut enough clips up, you'd probably hear me saying both things. But at times, I think baseball's the best thing to happen to cricket in a very long time. And there's other times where that's just constant moaning from them and a bit of chatter that you just get a bit sick of. And I suppose that's going to be reflective of when they're winning and when they're losing. When they're losing, it all seems very bad, that sort of shit. And when they're winning, it sort of gets swept under the carpet. But yeah, I just don't see how you can't give them a fail for that World Cup.
Yeah, I've gone an F minus, which I don't even know if it's a real fail. I just thought F wasn't low enough, and obviously you boys thought the same and made your own up. So there's no excuse for them being this shit. Like this side, like I've heard so much shit coming out of those camps. We focus too much on Test cricket. The team's getting old. It's like there's so many teams out there that's old. New Zealand's old. Australia's old. India's old. Like how can you only do well at one format? Like how can a team with so much, a country with so much resources only focus on one format at a time? I don't. And the other thing is like when they are good, they are so good and preachy, like how they're saving Test cricket or they're dominating white ball cricket. But then when they're bad, like it's not like they've just missed out. If they just missed out in the semis, that would be a disastrous World Cup going into this. We had them as like they could win it. They could generally win it. I still don't know how they're not in that conversation. Can't put my finger on it. But to think that they were last for majority of this tournament and they sort of won a couple of games at the end, there is just no excuse for that talent. No excuse whatsoever.
No, I mean, let's look at probably the nation that's taken this as similarly in terms of approaches as England in terms of Australia. Cummins, Hazelwood, Stark, but these guys don't play heaps of bilateral series. They're very much like, Test the number one format. They maybe play one or two of the main white ball series for a summer, but not all of them. And they're credit to them. They've fronted up because, at the end of the day, it's just cricket. For England to be this level of shambles, I don't think anyone saw this coming. And I don't think, the heads probably need to roll. Like that's how sort of bad this is.
100%. Yeah, just last thing I'll add is because I don't know what it is about this England side and the difference with this Aussie side. Because in a lot of ways, this Aussie side, a lot of their guys actually haven't fronted up either, and yet they've found a way to sort of win these games, and now they're one game away from a final again. Whereas when it's gone bad for England, they've sort of just melted down and sort of accepted it as a bad tournament. But I think that's just a wee bit of a different DNA between the two countries, I guess.
Well summed up. Couple more. Afghanistan. They won 4 games. They lost 5. They beat England, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and the Netherlands. Their high point was probably when they went 3 on the bounce, and then in the 4th game they had Australia 91 for 7, chasing 280. The low point is probably losing that game and then losing the next game. What could have been for Afghanistan. Their strengths, their batting has been really, really good. 4 batters averaging 40 plus. Their spinners, we've talked about them on length. Weaknesses probably just they relied maybe too much on spin at times. I want to see a few more seamers coming through. And probably with their batting, when they never crossed 300 once, as good as they have done. Admittedly, they were chasing a lot of that time, but it'd be nice when they can get 350 plus and really put a team to the sword. That's when we're going to see a really top 10 nation. Lugsy, what would you grade the Afghans for their World Cup efforts?
Yeah, speaking of Afghans, I just had 2 terrific bickies. I won't affect their grade on this occasion, but if it was going to, it would bump them up. It's a fantastic biscuit. Back
fantastic
to cricket.
Afghanistan performance.
Yeah, it's an A. It's an A for me. And it could have been an A plus, I guess. I mean, had they made the finals, it would have been. I think just losing that first up games really sort of cost them in the end. And obviously
it looks like an upset.
That
looks like an upset. Like now, looking back,
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, after that game, I just thought, oh yeah, they might get a win, maybe the Netherlands. But I thought they're probably going to be outclassed by most sides here, and they've turned that around completely and been one of the. And as we talked about before, like not just winning games comfortably and looking
Mm.
very comfortable at this level. So just a huge World Cup for them. Hopefully, something they can build on. Sometimes you see the smaller nations go on a wee run and they don't sort of build from there. It's just a moment in time, but really hoping they can come, really build on this. And this is just what they do from now on is compete and compete well.
Yeah, I probably had them as an A minus, and it's sort of varied. Like if you looked at the very end of the World Cup compared to the start, you'd probably go A plus. Like shit, they won 4 games, they were in things. But if you went from the end of when Aussie were 90 for 7 to now, they're probably only getting like a B or a C because they were actually looking like a real threat to play in the semis, and having Aussie 7 down, they just couldn't quite sort of finish the job. So. But it's still in that A category. I mean, a phenomenal performance to sort of be there or thereabouts, and with 2 or 3 games left, be in that semi-final conversation. They did 10 times better than England could at this World Cup, so has to be in the A category for me.
Yeah, I give them an A also. Yeah, I think considering they had only won one World Cup game heading into this, and it was a game against Scotland in 2015. They lost all their games in 2019. To win all those games so comfortably, like that first game against England was like your classic minnows upset. Like they get an average score and then they squeeze, and then the guess big nation sort of shits the bed, etc., etc. But after that, those 3 wins on the bounce were all very dominant victories. They were like seasoned teams and they were against teams that I've never beaten before. I get maybe not the Netherlands, and then against Australia, it was almost the same thing. Like 3/4 of that match, they were perfect, not like absolute perfect. Maxwell had a day out. They shat the bed themselves, which does happen when you are not used to being in those positions. I think the next step is probably closing that game out. I don't think any test playing nation, well, Bangladesh probably fuck it as well, but anyone else probably sort of loses that game. I think they find a way. They sort of cooler heads prevail. They have a plan. They realise Maxwell can't move and actually do the job. But that's not to take anything away. Like this is an awesome tournament. A for me. 5th place, we've got Pakistan. They also won 4. They lost 5. They beat the Netherlands, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and New Zealand. The high point has to be chasing 400. And the low point would be probably where they got absolutely dicked by Afghanistan. I think that's you simply, if you want to make the semis, you've got to beat the teams you should beat. And that's not that. Their strengths, Rizwan and Zaman was exceptional with the bat. With the ball, Wasim and Afridi were the stars. Well, not really stars. They did okay comparatively to everyone else who were very poor. Ralph was poor. The spinners were nothing short of disgrace. Averaging over 100 is like, that's tough to do. So my grade for them boys, I've just got a C. Okay. I've just got to I could be persuaded to like a C minus, potentially, because a C sounds like you passed when I don't think they've passed, but they were very, very close to the semis. Where are you guys sitting with Pakistan?
So, yeah, I've definitely got them as a D. I think this is a failure of a tournament when they sort of look back on it. I mean, they've got two or 3 serious quirks. Their spinners, maybe 6 months ago, we were talking like, Shadab Khan, one of the better all-rounders going around. Their spin attack was really, really good. They had the top order batting. I think they sort of were very similar to South Africa leading into this World Cup in terms of, top heavy with the bat, really, really, really good seamers and, some okay spinners. So, yeah, for them to bow out, and I think probably viewing this as a holistic thing, like bowing out of the Asia Cup as well. Like they've had probably a poor year when they were they've got a few guys in their prime with the batting in terms of like Fakhar Zaman, Rizwan, Bubba, and then they've got young quicks who have all played enough international cricket and have elite skill sets. So they probably should be. They should be in that top four, and anything else probably is a failure for me.
Yeah, I mean, I split the difference between yous and gave it a wee C minus. But I can easily be talked around to Jacko's way of thinking, actually, because I do, on the whole, think it is a failure of a tournament. I think when you're a big nation, New Zealand would have been the same. If you miss the semis, that is a failure, I think, in my books. And what sort of still annoys me about Pakistan is I just feel like they've never really changed their DNA. Like, when it goes down, it just goes downhill, and it goes downhill fast, and all the little things that as an international nation you should be able to control, your fielding, you're not moaning at each other, your attitude, they just still don't seem to be able to do when it goes bad. So, I thought that they were a very good chance of making the semi-finals, and at times they looked every bit a team that could at least make that final. I think, everyone apart from India at times has looked even. I'll go a C minus, but I'm happy to throw it down to a D or I've just started to realise I have no clue what actually a fail and a pass is in an exam, but I'll go a
C minus is
D.
51%.
Yeah,
Is
so
it?
I mean,
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. I've got a couple first to go around.
I was always
yeah,
thinking,
what
I
throws me off-
was thinking like a B as a pass, but it's not, is it? It's just B's actually quite exceptional.
but oh shit,
I think
C's get degrees, as they say.
Yeah. Well, C's you just got to pass to get your degree, don't you?
I guess what's throwing me off there is F always in my head stands for fail, but D's also a fail. So
Yeah. D's a weird one, but it's like a fail, but you tried hard. And F is just no good, mate.
And E's odd. It's in the middle there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Side note.
Righto. Let's move on. It's semi-final time, boys. This is the serious time of the tournament. We've got the first one coming up. We've got New Zealand paying $3.20 to beat India, who are hot favourites, at $1.33, 9 in a row for India. 5 out of 9 for New Zealand. New Zealand, 5 semi-finals in a row. I think it's 8 or 9 semi-finals total. I believe New Zealand has the most semi-final appearances ever, tied with Australia, more than India, just quietly. But India are hot favourites for a reason. And boys, what does India have to do to win this game of cricket against New Zealand?
Don't say show up.
Get off the bus. No, I think. Nah, in all honesty, I think India's recipe is bat first and just put us under the pump early, and really sort of score as many as they can, and then just back that bowling unit they've got to squeeze the life out of us. I feel like that's their plan A, and plan 1A and plan 1B is skittle us or keep us to under 300 and then send those same batters against us. So, they've got two very good options either way, because I think that they're equally as good with the bat and the ball. So, I think they just got to not give us the sniff, like not get it close, not make it tight. Just try and be a little bit clinical with us is how they win.
Yeah. I think, what do they have to be at to sort of beat us, or dare I say everyone else? Maybe 70, 80%. That's the difference, I guess, with them at the moment, is they probably don't even have to be at 100% to beat us. They've got enough guys that can do jobs. I honestly don't think there's any score that they'd be nervous about chasing, realistically. I mean, we're not going to score 900 and, get silly. I don't really think there's a score that at the halfway mark they'll look and think, we can't get this. I think we'll talk about, I guess, what we have to do next, but they just have to be anywhere near, anywhere close to their best, and they'll win. They'll win this tournament, as we've said from day dot.
I think the big, they should win. Okay, they should win. They probably will win. And they haven't. Well, the favourites. That's what it probably will means. But they haven't been tested at all. And the key for India over the years is when the game gets tight, can they hold their nerve? Can they still play that fun cricket? Are they still going to have 9 guys having a bowl? Like, are they still going to
Dhoni stay not out in a run chase?
Are they still going to be having a laugh doing this? Can they, like, as loud as that crowd is, it is deathly silent when things aren't going their way. And I think the key for both sides are the power plays. I think Rohit, he comes in hot in these power. His strike rate's like 122. So I think he's coming out, he's sending a message. If Bolt can sort of get him early, and just sort of get a couple early in that power play, and same with the ball. Like, they got Bumrah, Siraj, Shami. Like, they've knocked the top off most teams. And I think if New Zealand can avoid that, they've given themselves a sniff. But they'll want to knock us out early. That's what they want. But if the game is tight and New Zealand are very good at sort of dragging it out, give themselves a sniff, can India just continue to be dominant the whole way through? If they can, there's no one that can touch them.
100%.
Righto. I got one more question that sort of puts in perspective these sides. How many caps are you putting in this Indian side? Like, man for man. Like, genuinely.
So you think of our best players and they're probably still covered. Like, you think of Ravindra's not going to make it. Santa's probably not going to make it. They've got
Conway's not, Darrell's not.
Maybe like Darrell, maybe bet him at 6.
Yeah, maybe you'd get one of our sticks in there and they'd just chuck them at a 6, wouldn't you?
Maybe like Mitchell over Sky, but Sky's like the best T20 batter in the world. Like, are we?
Yeah, I think Bolt's the only real chance, and they don't play that second or like they don't play a Pangier.
We won't play it anyway. Yeah. But like Siraj, Shami, Bumrah, it's like, do we need Bolt?
Yeah, I mean, do we need him? I think Bolt would get in. At his best, he's top few in the world. Yeah, peak Bolt's getting in.
Okay, right. Let's the final semi-final. Australia $1.73 versus South Africa, who are $2.05. Boys, this is a tasty. This feels like we could be seeing a repeat of '99. Like, this could be an all-time classic. Two sides that are, I think, very, very evenly matched. But let's start with Australia. What do they need to do to win?
I think what Aussie really need is some of their veterans and their superstars to step up. Crom sort of touched on it earlier that they've actually gone a long way in this tournament with only maybe 4 or 5 guys. I think the seamers have the 7th worst bowling average at the World Cup. Like, Zampa's holding them together. They need some vintage performances from their superstars. I'm talking Stark a few at the top, like Hazelwood and Cummins through the middle, Smith 110 off 95. Like, I think they just need some vintage performances from the guys that aren't doing well, because in a semi-final, everything gets condensed and every guy sort of matters that little bit more. So I think they just need a bit more out of guys, 6 to 11 than they've been getting. And those guys are all like proven superstars. So I think they might get it.
Yeah, I mean, if they can even get anything out of their big 3 at the top, they're going to be a vast improvement on what they've got so far. And if they can get a bit out of them, and then Zants will come in and do his usual, they'll be hard to beat. I think, this is as you said, Munter, this is a very tasty game because I don't really know what to expect. I think it could be a bit looser than our game. For some reason, I think our game's going to be quite tight and just a sort of tense game of cricket, where I think this one could actually go pretty high scoring and be quite loose.
I could see ours being very similar to the round robin, sort of 275, 280 plays that and a chase sort of thing.
Yeah, and then I just think this one could go anywhere. I think because the thing about both these sides are even if they don't get the best out of all their guys, they've got some players that can not just go but go big and like 100 off 60 sort of thing, not just your 100 off 90s or 80s. Like we're talking take the game away from you, but they're both sides have got it.
Yeah.
So I don't
Could
know.
we
To
see
me,
another
it's just
400, 400?
it's very open to me. It's
Yeah.
you don't
There's-
expect that in a semi, but I could see something big happening.
Yeah, I think those odds are more because of pedigree. Because I think the thing is Australia just haven't really clicked yet. They've won 7 in a row, and they keep finding different ways to win games of cricket. Whereas if you look at South Africa, they've got a very like copy and paste method. It's bat first, 300 plus new ball wickets. That's pretty much the method, and it's a very good method. And if they do bat first, watch out Australia. They've been skittled before. And I think one of their strengths, South Africa, is they probably play Zampa the best out of most teams. Like it wasn't that long ago that Zampa went for 113 against South Africa. Like Klaasen is probably the best player of spin in the world. He's probably got Zampa's number. So I think that's like a real key matchup for me. If they can potentially get on top of Zampa at any point, and the new ball bowlers aren't taking wickets for Australia. For Australia. Australia's in a bit of trouble there, I think. Whereas, if Australia's going to win, they really want those new ball wickets. It's not a long batting lineup for South Africa. I've touched on that. Yes, I'm wrong. We get it. But if they don't take new ball wickets, then that top 6 can destroy teams. They can destroy Zampa. They can destroy them at the back end. So I think that's probably going to be the key, the power play for South Africa when they bat. Anything else on this game, lads?
No, even South Africa probably take Zampa none for 60 off his 10. Like that's probably a win for them in this game. Just condenses things, puts pressure on the other big boys. I think Zampa is the coin toss for this game.
Final word I'll say is I'm picking South Africa.
Okay. I'm going to pick Australia.
I'll go the over total runs for the game, whatever it is at.
I mean, we haven't even touched on the fact that South Africa, can't sort of win a knockout game of cricket. So that's a concern, I'd say, going on.
And you've just picked them.
and Australia can't lose a knockout game of cricket. So here I am picking South Africa.
Yeah, I'm going to need to see South Africa win a game, knockout game of cricket before I pick them, basically.
Well, I can't argue with that.
Righto, that's us for another show. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like, hit that subscribe button here if you are on the tube. Thanks to Lugsy and Jack as always, and to all our lovely Indian friends, don't choke.